Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make videos for NBA, I make videos for NFL. All these videos, they get posted on this subreddit right here. It's called DF Sports with one S. You can find my post right here. Username is Shook. I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day. You can ask me questions about the slate, up to lock. I'll reply to you, stuff like that. That'll be linked down below. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can do so right here on Twitter. All right, so let's get into my lineups for the night, um, and then we'll go over this four-game slate. I like this slate for tomorrow. I really, really like this slate. But let's go over my lineups from tonight. So we'll pull up the night slate, and we'll pull up main slate. I'm not even going to talk about main slate. I just don't even know what happened with the Washington rotation. But some things I want to get out of the way for this night slate. Um, and all the stuff that I'm about to say you can get in my Discord, where I have cores for cash, GPPs, night slate, main slate, private videos for night slate, main slate as well, pretty much everything. So this is my lineup for night slate. The winning lineup in the 50K to first, as you can see, had Ellis, Herter, Reddish, Keita Bates-Diop, Domantas Sabonis, D'Angelo Russell, Keegan Murray, and LeBron James. Now let's take a look at my lineup. You'll notice a similar thing here. Keon Ellis, Kevin Herter, Cam Reddish, Keita Bates-Diop. Where is he? Domantas Sabonis, D'Angelo Russell, Keegan Murray. So you see here, $20,000, all in a 1v1 swap of Anthony Davis versus LeBron James for $20,000. I'm pretty mad at myself, but I will take the win. I'm not mad at myself because I wasn't really considering LeBron. Like, I play AD over LeBron 10 out of 10 times here, but my thinking for this night slate was, and we all crushed it, so I'll show you in Discord. We had absolute nukes for this night slate. A Bink there for $800, second place there for $350, another second place for $350. Tony was in first place in the 50K, winning $50,000 until the last 2 minutes. Quentin Binked, like, just huge stuff for the night slate. And my thinking for night slate was nobody was going to play all these kings. My core for this night slate was kings. It was literally jamming kings. It was Keon Ellis, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, and Kevin Herter. That was my core. It was 4 kings. My reasoning for going to this many kings was it's pretty simple. The game environment was going to be a lot better than Lakers game, even though the Lakers scored. That game scored a lot more, but the Oklahoma City Thunder, I believe, are third in pace in the NBA right now. Sacramento is pretty slow right now, but I think they're. I think that's pretty wrong. I think they're going to go up towards the halfway through the season. I think they'll shoot a bit up there. No Fox. Price points were a bit too cheap. You had Keon Ellis starting, you had Keita Bates-Diop starting, and you had Cam Reddish starting. So you had a ton of value to pretty much do whatever you wanted. So that's why I told everyone, like, I'm playing Sabonis, I'm playing Keegan, I'm playing Herter, I'm playing Ellis, and then I'm jamming another value. And you can pretty much do whatever you want. Get up to AD, get up to LeBron, get up to SGA. Pretty much do whatever you want. So that was my reasoning for liking the Kings. They were all just too cheap with Fox out. Basically, is my reasoning. Um, and Kevin Herter, if he doesn't get benched, his usage rates go way up with no Fox. Keegan Murray, he was my favorite play on this night slate. Was way under owned because of bad shooting performances in the past. He was only 20% owned in this contest, or only 39% owned in the main GPP. So I was really high on the Kings. So that propelled us into having a great day overall. All right, let's get into this 4-game slate. And like I said, I really like this slate for 4-gamers. So Milwaukee and Orlando, we have Damian Lillard questionable. We'll go over it both ways. Now, if Damian Lillard is in, I still think Giannis stands out as one of the best setups on the slate. Good spot up against Orlando. Gonna play decent minutes. It's nice because last year with Bud, they would kind of limit his minutes during the regular season in the beginning portion of it. But it seems like he's gonna play mid to high 30s minutes right now. So Has been pretty up and down, but we know he's going to stuff the stat sheet. We know we can get defensive stats. We know the minutes are going to be there. I like the spot up against Orlando. I think for me right now, the best spot up on the slate is definitely going to be Giannis. Dame, I think, is priced right, so he's just more of a tournament play for me if he plays. And then, if Dame's in, it kind of takes almost everyone else out of play for me. Like, Middleton's on the limit. You can't go there. Also, he would lose usage. Brook Lopez, I'm not going to play him regardless. Bobby Portis gets a bit of a hit. Would still be playable, would still play low 20s minutes, but would lose a little bit of usage. Wouldn't like him as much. Campaign would be out of play for me. Malik Beasley would still be fine, I guess, but would prefer Dame out. And then Jay Crowder would just be fine, I guess, but would also prefer Dame out. And then, I'm not going to play Connaughton or any of these guys. We saw Beauchamp, I believe, have a decent game. I guess he started off well with Dame out. But if Dame's out, that does change a little bit. Then Campaign's going to shoot up to one of the best value plays on the slate. I mean, he played 30 minutes. Historically, he's been about a fantasy point per minute guy. I don't think he'll be about a fantasy point per minute guy playing alongside Giannis. But if you give him 30 minutes, I think he'll be around like 0.9, which is still plenty at 4.7K. So Campaign, he'll stuff the stat sheet. If he hits his shots, he does have a major ceiling at this price point. He would stand out as one of the better value plays on the slate. And then it's, more usage for these guys. Like, I think Beasley would be an interesting value. I think Crowder would be a very, very safe value play. I wouldn't mind him. Connaughton would be playable at 3.7, and then I think Bobby Portis would be a pretty good play at 5.3. Pretty good point per minute. I would expect low 20s minutes from him. I think he'd be decent too. Price came down as well. Definitely would prefer him to Brook. Middleton would still be on a limit, so I wouldn't really go there. And then Giannis would just overall shoot up to the best spend up, and it wouldn't even be close for me. So keep an eye on that Dame news. Pretty important there. All right, Wendell Carter Jr. is out for Orlando. Got a tough spot here. I think Paolo, Franz, they're more just contrarian plays for me. If I had to lean one now that they're close in price points, I just lean Paolo every time over Franz. You have Marco Fultz back, so like Suggs at 5.5. I'll let the absolute slaps chase him with Fultz back. This game is definitely a complete outlier. He's not going to go for 6 steals again. So if Suggs gets any ownership right now, tomorrow at least, with Fultz back, I think he's one of the worst plays on the slate. If he nukes, so be it. Cole Anthony, I think, is a bit pricey also with Fultz back. I think my favorite play from this team is going to be Markel Fultz at 5.3. Pretty low floor for a guard, but when he is nuking, he does have a pretty high ceiling. Like, he can go for 40 plus, especially when he has these games where he's stuffing the stat sheet and hitting his shots. So I think point per dollar, Marco Fultz would be my favorite play on this team. And then, last game they closed with Isaac. Isaac is actually a pretty good point per minute player. So if you think they close with him again, I guess you could take a shot on him. I don't know if they would up against the Bucks. I think that's a very, very small chance. I think it'd probably be Mo or Goga, even though Goga hasn't closed a game yet. I don't believe. Maybe against the Lakers he did. So I think like my favorite plays of this value, I think it would be Mo. Really good point per minute. I'm expecting around 20 minutes regardless. They could close with him. They could also close with Goga. I think it would either be one of them two up against the Bucks. And with Fultz back, I'm not going to play Black. I think Ingles had a pretty good game, but I'm not going to chase that. Gary Harris is questionable. He could be back. If he's back, that just takes even pretty much most of these value plays out of play for me. Then it would be a hit to, all the guards as well. So keep an eye on that. That could be important there. All right, tough spot here for Toronto. I have no issue if you want to pay 8.9K for Scotty Barnes up against Boston. I really have no issue with it. He's playing huge minutes. He is their go-to guy right now. He's a good rebounder. He's stuffing the stat sheet. They're running their offense through him. He's a good defender, can get block steals. He literally checks all the boxes of what you're looking for in a player, and he's still sub 9K. So I still think he's a pretty good play, even at this price point, playing up against Boston. I don't mind it. Probably will be low owned too, once again. Siakam, I just prefer Scotty Barnes, but Siakam at 8K is fine. Does have a ceiling. Good rebounder. Has been struggling shooting the ball the past, I guess I read that wrong. 15 and 25 there is pretty good. I don't mind Siakam. I think I'd rather just get up to Scotty Barnes. Dennis Schroeder at 6'4", I think is reasonable. He's done a really, really good job for Toronto so far. Kind of surprised by it actually. But he's a good point per minute guy. I'm expecting, as long as this game stays close, probably mid 30s minutes. I think he's relatively safe. We'll keep an eye on Precious Chuanus. If he is in, that kind of makes Jakob Poeltl a bit riskier. If he is out, I think Poeltl's a bit too cheap. I think he'd be solid. Once again, pretty tough spot. OG will play big minutes. Good defender as well. I think he's reasonable. I think I prefer Poeltl. And then Gary Trent will come off the bench, play low to mid 20s minutes. Has to hit shots to reach value, but a playable option if you need the salary. And I think that's it for Toronto. Let's move on to Boston here. So once again, not the best spot here, so I don't really think too much stands out to me. I'd assume Al Horford is going to be playing in this game. He missed today. I think Tatum's a fair spend up, but I do give the edge to Giannis. I might even prefer like Donovan Mitchell, even Jimmy Butler for cheaper, right? So not too big a fan of Tatum, but we know he does have a ceiling, right? Double upside, gonna play huge minutes. Boston's running a really tight rotation as long as their games stay close, so definitely in play for me. Not my favorite spend up, but always viable. Jalen Brown at 8K, I think is now to the price point where I think he should be. Also, good thing with him, right? They're running a really tight rotation. He's probably going to shoot the ball 20 plus times. I'm not going to say no if you want to land on him. I'm not going to, but fair play. Porzingis at 7-9, I think, my favorite plays from this team are going to be Porzingis and Derek White once again here. I think Derek White still is a little bit too cheap. Once again, as long as this game stays close, he's probably going to play low to mid 30s minutes. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy as well. So you give him like 35 minutes, he's probably going to do well at this price point. So I like White. I think Drew's good. He had a massive game tonight as well. Don't mind him. I think I prefer the price point on White, and I think Porzingis is reasonable. Not going to play anyone else. They're running too tight of a rotation. On to Miami. So probably my favorite team to target here. Tyler Herro is going to be out. So, I mean, I would assume the starting lineup would be something like Kyle Lowry, Duncan, They started Highsmith last game. I guess they could start J. Rich. So, like, we know Lowry, we know Bam, we know Butler are going to start. They started Highsmith last game. Throw him in there. And then I guess one of Duncan or J. Rich would be my guess. Now, with Harrow out, we know Bam, we know Butler. They're going to have to be leaned on pretty heavily here. I think both look very good, even at 8-5 and 8-3. So I'm pretty high on both Butler and Bam Adebayo. Now, I think the guy that looks really good to me here is Kyle Lowry. I mean, if you look at this team, they just have no other ball handlers. Like, Kyle Lowry is going to have to play pretty big minutes here. He's going to stuff the stat sheet. Like I said, going to play big minutes. I know it's disgusting clicking on Kyle Lowry, especially at this price point, but I like me some Kyle Lowry tomorrow. And then Kevin Love went to the bench last game. Hard to go there. And then if they start Highsmith again, I think he's solid value. Played 27 minutes now. Not going to be the highest usage guy. We'll get a bump without Tyler Herro. But if he starts again, I think he's solid value. Duncan, if he starts, I really like him for value. Jacquez, he'll get decent run. He played low 20s minutes. He's playable. So these value plays for Miami look really good. And then I think J. Rich is in play. I really like Lowry. I like Butler. I like Bam. This whole Miami team looks really good to me. On to Atlanta. So Trey, Murray, I think they're reasonable. I think Trae Young's still a bit too cheap at 9.4K. So I like me some Trey. Murray at 8-2, probably easier to get to because of the price point, but I always, when I'm ever playing one of these guards, when they're both in, I always prefer just prioritizing Trey between the two, just because I like the ceiling more. I think the floor is a bit higher as well. So give me Trey over Murray. I think they're both fine, though. Jalen Johnson I like quite a bit at 6-2. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to play mid-30s minutes. He can do a bit of everything. Good rebounder. Floor super high with ceilings. So I really like Jalen Johnson at 6-2. And then the bigs, Capella, Okongwu, they'll kind of split the center minutes. I think they're both reasonable options. And then the value here, it'll kind of depend on what happens with Miami starting lineup and Dame news on how I'd rank these values. Like, if we don't get much value, then yeah, you can look to Hunter, you can look to Bogey, you can look to Bay. I think they'd be solid. But we could have potential better value, or we do have better value in my opinion, possibly with Miami, and then possibly with Milwaukee. But Baya, Congo, Bogey, Hunter, I think they're all reasonable to solid values. I'm not going to play anyone else though. On to Cleveland. So good thing with Cleveland is with no Okoro, they're going to run their starters into the ground. So looking at the rotation, they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They played 9 guys, but they basically played 7, pretty much. You saw Levert play 34. You saw Garland play 36. You saw Mitchell play 37. Jared Allen still on a limit. Max Strus 32. Evan Mobley 33. So at the top here, I think Donovan Mitchell is a solid spend up at 9,500. I think Mobley just kind of indifferent on, but the guys that really stand out to me is Darius Garland at 6.9K. If they're going to ramp his minutes back up to around 36 minutes a game, he is far too cheap at this price point. I really like Darius Garland here. I think Levert's fine, but I just prefer getting up to Garland. And then I'm very, very intrigued by Jared Allen at this price point. I know he's still on the limit, but give him 28 minutes at 5.7K. He's probably going to do pretty well. So I like Jared Allen even on a limit. Strus is fine. I'm not going to play Niang. I'm not going to play anyone else. And then on to my least favorite team. Probably one of my least favorite teams to target on this slate is going to be the Warriors. Don't love the spot here. Steph's always in play for me for tournaments just because the ceiling's massive. I think Clay's priced right. I think Chris Paul's priced right, especially with Draymond back. Draymond, probably my favorite play on this team. 6K does seem a bit too cheap for him. I expect those minutes to slowly creep a little bit up as well. Gonna stuff the stat sheet. So I think Draymond's reasonable, and I'm not gonna play anyone else. I'm just not gonna do it. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for the video, guys. Hopefully you guys had a good night, and I will talk to you all in the next one.